a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Madeleine Beth McCann disappeared on the evening of the 3rd of May 2007 from her bed in a holiday apartment in Praia da Luz, a resort in the Algarve region of Portugal, sparking what one newspaper called the most heavily reported missing person case in modern history. Her whereabouts remain unknown. Madeleine was on holiday from the UK with her parents, Kate and Gerry McCann, her 2-year-old twin siblings, and a group of family friends and their children. She and the twins had been left asleep at 20:30 in the ground floor apartment, while the McCanns and friends dined in a restaurant 55 meters away. The parents checked on the children throughout the evening, until Madeleine's mother discovered she was missing at 2200 hours. Over the following weeks, particularly after misinterpreting a British DNA analysis, the Portuguese police came to believe that Madeleine had died in an accident in the apartment and that her parents had covered it up. The McCanns were given arguido status in September 2007, which was lifted when Portugal's Attorney General archived the case in July 2008, because of a lack of evidence. The parents continued the investigation using private detectives until Scotland Yard opened its own inquiry, Operation Grange, in 2011. The senior investigating officer announced that he was treating the disappearance as a criminal act by a stranger, most likely a planned abduction or burglary gone wrong. In 2013, Scotland Yard released fit images of men they wanted to trace, including one of a man seen carrying a child toward the beach that night. Shortly after this, the Portuguese police reopened their inquiry. Operation Grange was scaled back in 2015, but the remaining detectives continued to pursue a small number of inquiries described in April 2017 as significant. The disappearance attracted sustained international interest and saturation coverage in the UK reminiscent of the death of Diana in 1997. The McCanns were subjected to intense scrutiny and baseless allegations of involvement in their daughter's death, particularly in the tabloid press and on Twitter. In 2008 they and their travelling companions received damages and apologies from Express newspapers, and in 2011 the McCanns testified before the Leveson inquiry into British press misconduct, lending support to those arguing for tighter press regulation. Madeleine McCann. Madeleine was born in Leicester and lived with her family in Rothley, also in Leicestershire. At her parents' request, she was made a ward of court in England shortly after the disappearance, which gave the court statutory powers to act on her behalf. Police described Madeleine as blonde-haired, with blue-green eyes, a small brown spot on her left calf, and a distinctive dark strip on the iris of her right eye. In 2009 the McCanns released age-progressed images of how she may have looked at age 6, and in 2012 Scotland Yard commissioned one of her at age 9. Kate and Gerry McCann. Madeleine's parents are both physicians and practicing Roman Catholics. Kate Marie McCann, née attended All Saints School in Anfield, then Notre Dame High School in Everton Valley, graduating in 1992 with a degree in medicine from the University of Dundee. She moved briefly into obstetrics and gynecology, then anesthetics, and finally general practice. Gerald Patrick McCann attended Holyrood RC secondary school before graduating from the University of Glasgow with a BSc in physiology/sports science in 1989. In 1992 he qualified in medicine and in 2002 obtained his MD, a research degree, also from Glasgow. Since 2005 he has been a consultant cardiologist at Glenfield Hospital, Leicester. The McCanns met in 1993 in Glasgow and were married in 1998. Madeleine was born in 2003 and the twins, a boy and girl, in 2005. Tapas Seven. The McCanns were on holiday with 7 friends and 8 children in all, including the McCanns 3. The 9 adults dined together most evenings at 20:30 in the resort's tapas restaurant, as a result of which the media dubbed the friends the Tapas Seven. The group included Fiona and David Payne, both physicians, their 2 children, and Fiona's mother, Diane Webster. The McCanns had known the Paynes for years. Kate had met Fiona in 2000 when they both worked in Leicester General Hospital's intensive care unit. Accompanying them were 2 couples the Paynes had originally introduced to the McCanns, Jane Tanner, a marketing manager, and her partner, Russell O'Brien, a physician, who were on holiday with their 2 children, and Matthew Oldfield, another physician, who was with his wife, Rachel Oldfield, a lawyer and recruitment consultant, and their daughter. Gerry, Russell and Matthew had worked together over the years. The Tanner sighting, Jane Tanner's report that she saw a man carry a child away from the resort 45 minutes before Madeleine was reported missing, became one of the most discussed aspects of the case. 5A Rua Dr. Agostinho da Silva, Praia da Luz. The McCanns arrived on Saturday the 28th of April 2007, for their 7-night spring break in Praia da Luz, a village with a population of 1,000, known as Little Britain because of the concentration of British homeowners and holidaymakers. They had booked through the British holiday company Mark Warner Limited, and were placed in 5A Rua Dr. Agostinho da Silva, an apartment owned by a retired teacher from Liverpool, one of several privately owned properties rented by the company. 5A was a 2-bedroom, ground-floor apartment in the 5th block of a group of apartments known as Waterside Village, which lay on the perimeter of part of Mark Warner's Ocean Club Resort. Matthew and Rachel Oldfield were next door in 5B, Jane Tanner and Russell O'Brien in 5D, and the Paynes and Diane Webster on the 1st floor. The apartment block was not a gated complex. Located on the corner of Rua Dr. Agostinho da Silva and Rua Dr. Francisco Jonti Martins, 5A was accessible to the public from 2 sides. Sliding glass patio doors in the living room at the back overlooked the Ocean Club's pool, tennis courts, tapas restaurant and bar. The patio doors could be accessed via a public street, Rua Dr. Francisco Jonti Martins, where a small gate and set of steps led to 5A's balcony and living room. 5A's front door was on the opposite side of the block from the Ocean Club, on Rua Dr. Agostinho da Silva. The McCanns' children slept in a bedroom next to the front door, which the McCanns kept locked. The bedroom had one waist-high window with curtains and a metal exterior shutter, the latter controlled by a cord inside the window. The McCanns kept the curtains and shutter closed throughout the holiday. The window overlooked a narrow walkway and residence car park, which was separated by a low wall from the street. Madeleine slept in a single bed next to the bedroom door, on the opposite side of the room from the window, while the twins were in travel cots in the middle of the room. There was another, empty, single bed underneath the window. 2030, Tapas Restaurant. Thursday, the 3rd of May, was the penultimate day of the family's holiday. Over breakfast Madeleine asked, "Why didn't you come when her brother and I cried last night after the disappearance?" Her parents wondered whether this meant someone had entered the children's bedroom. Her mother also noticed a large brown stain on Madeleine's pajama top. The children spent the morning in the resort's kids' club. Then the family lunched at their apartment before heading to the pool. Kate took the last known photograph of Madeleine at 2:29 that afternoon, sitting by the pool next to her father and 2-year-old sister. The children returned to Kids Club, and at 1800 hours their mother took them back to 5A, while their father went for a tennis lesson. The McCanns put the children to bed around 1900 hours. Madeleine was left asleep in short-sleeved, pink and white Marks and Spencer's Eeyore pajamas, next to her comfort blanket and a soft toy, Cuddle Cat. At 20:30 the parents left 5A to dine with their friends in the Ocean Club's open-air tapas restaurant, located on the other side of the pool. 5A lay about 55 meters from the restaurant as the crow flies, but getting to the restaurant involved walking along a public street to reach the doors of the Ocean Club Resort, then walking through the resort to the other side of the pool, a distance of about 82 meters. The top of the apartment was visible from the tapas restaurant, but not the doors. The patio doors could be locked only from the inside, so the McCanns left them closed, but unlocked, with the curtains drawn, so they could let themselves in that way when checking on the children. There was a child safety gate at the top of the steps from the patio and a low gate at the bottom, which led to the street. The resort staff had left a note in a message book at the swimming pool reception area, asking that the same table, which overlooked the apartments, be block booked for 20:30 for the McCanns and friends every evening for the last 4 evenings of the holiday. The message said the group's children were asleep in the apartments. Madeleine's mother believes the abductor may have seen the note. The McCanns and their friends left the restaurant roughly every half hour to check on their children. Madeleine's father carried out the first check on 5A at around 21:05. The children were asleep and all was well, except that he recalled having left the children's bedroom door slightly ajar, and now it stood almost wide open. He pulled it nearly closed again before returning to the restaurant. 21:15, Tanner sighting. The sighting by Jane Tanner, one of the Tapas Seven, of a man carrying a child that night became an important part of the early investigation. She had left the restaurant just after 2100 hours to check on her own daughter. Passing Madeleine's father on Rua Dr. Francisco Janti Martins on his way back to the restaurant from his 21:05 check. He had stopped to chat to a British holidaymaker, but neither man recalled having seen Tanner. This puzzled the Portuguese police, given how narrow the street was, and led them to accuse Tanner of having invented the sighting. Tanner told the police that at around 21:15 she had noticed a man carrying a young child walk across the junction of Rua Dr. Francisco Janti Martins and Rua Dr. Agostinho da Silva just ahead of her. He was not far from Madeleine's bedroom, heading east, away from the front of apartment 5A. In the early days of the investigation, the direction in which he was walking was thought to be important, because he was moving toward the home of Robert Murat, the 33-year-old British-Portuguese man who lived near apartment 5A, and who became the case's first arguido. The child in the man's arms was wearing light-colored pink pajamas with a floral pattern and cuffs on the legs, similar to Madeleine's. Tanner described the man as white, dark-haired, 5 feet 7 in tall, of Southern European or Mediterranean appearance, 35–40 years old, wearing gold or beige trousers and a dark jacket, and said he did not look like a tourist. Tanner told the Portuguese police. But they did not pass the description to the media until 25 May. Madeleine's fund hired a forensic artist to create an image of the man, which was released in October 2007. The sighting became important because it offered investigators a time frame for the abduction, but Scotland Yard came to view it as a red herring. In October 2013 they said that a British holidaymaker had been identified as the man Tanner had seen. He had been returning to his apartment after collecting his daughter from the Ocean Club night crash. Scotland Yard took photographs of the man wearing the same or similar clothes to the ones he was wearing on the night, and standing in a pose similar to the one Tanner reported. The pajamas his daughter had been wearing also matched Tanner's report. Operation Granger's lead detective, DCI Andy Redwood, said they were almost certain the Tanner sighting was not related to the abduction. 2200 hours, Smith sighting. The rejection of the Tanner sighting as crucial to the timeline allowed investigators to focus on another sighting of a man carrying a child that night, this one reported by Martin and Mary Smith. On holiday from Ireland, Scotland Yard concluded in 2013 that the Smith sighting offered the approximate time of Madeleine's kidnap. The Smiths saw the man at around 2200 hours on Rua da Escola Primaria, 500 yards from the McCann's apartment, walking away from the Ocean Club and toward Rua 25 to Abril and the beach. He was carrying a girl aged 3–4 years. She had blonde hair and pale skin, was wearing light-colored pajamas, and had bare feet. The man was mid-30s, 5 feet 7 in 5 feet 9 in, slim to normal build, with short brown hair, wearing cream or beige trousers. He did not look like a tourist, according to the Smiths, and had seemed uncomfortable carrying the child. E-fits based on the Smiths' testimony were first created in 2008 by Oakley International, private investigators hired by the McCanns, and were publicized in 2013 by Scotland Yard on Crime Watch. 2200 hours, reported missing. Madeleine's mother had intended to check on the children at 21:30, but Matthew Oldfield, one of the Tapas Seven, offered to do it when he checked on his own children in the apartment next door to 5A. He noticed that the McCanns' children's bedroom door was wide open, but after hearing no noise, he left 5A without looking far enough into the bedroom to see whether Madeleine was there. He could not recall whether the bedroom window and its exterior shutter were open at this point. Early on in the investigation, the Polícia Judiciária accused Oldfield of involvement because he had volunteered to do the check, suggesting to him that he had handed Madeleine to someone through the bedroom window. Kate made her own check of 5A at around 2200 hours. Scotland Yard said in 2013 that Madeleine was probably taken moments before this. Kate recalled entering the apartment through the unlocked patio doors at the back and noticing that the children's bedroom door was wide open. When she tried to close the door, it slammed shut as though there was a draft, which is when she saw that the bedroom window and its shutter were open. Madeleine's cuddle cat and pink blanket were still on the bed, but Madeleine was gone. After briefly searching the apartment, Kate ran back towards the restaurant, screaming, "Madeleine's gone. Someone's taken her." At around 22:10, Madeleine's father sent Matthew Oldfield to ask the resort's reception desk to call the police, and at 22:30 the resort activated its missing child search protocol. 60 staff and guests searched until 4:30, at first assuming that Madeleine had wandered off. One of them told Channel 4's dispatchers that, from one end of Luz to the other, you could hear people calling her name. Portuguese police. 2 officers from the Gendarmerie, the Guarda Nacional Republicana, arrived at the resort at 23:10 from Lagos, 5 miles away. At midnight, after briefly searching, they alerted the criminal police. The Polícia Judiciária, in nearby Portimão. Kate McCann said they arrived just after 1 a.m. According to the Polícia Judiciária, they arrived within 10 minutes of being alerted. 2 patrol dogs were brought to the resort at 2 a.m. and 4 search and rescue dogs at 8 a.m. Police officers had their leave cancelled and started searching waterways, wells, caves, sewers and ruins. Inspector Gonçalo Amaral, head of the Polícia Judiciária in Portimão, became the inquiry's coordinator. It was widely acknowledged that mistakes were made during the so-called golden hours, soon after the disappearance. Neither border nor marine police were given descriptions of Madeleine for many hours, and officers did not make house-to-house searches. According to Kate, roadblocks were first put in place at 10 the next morning. Police did not request motorway surveillance pictures of vehicles leaving Praia da Luz that night, or of the road between Lagos and Vila Real de Santo Antonio on the Spanish border. Euroscut, the company that monitors the road, said they were not approached for information. It took Interpol 5 days to issue a global missing person alert. Not everyone in the resort at the time was interviewed. Holidaymakers later contacted the British police to say no one had spoken to them. The crime scene was not secured. Police took samples from Madeleine's bedroom, which were sent to 3 forensic labs in Portugal. It was reported on the 1st of June 2007 that DNA from one stranger had been found, but around 20 people had entered apartment 5A before it was closed off. According to Chief Inspector Olegaio de Sousa of the Polícia Judiciária. According to Madeleine's mother, an officer placed tape across the doorway of the children's bedroom, but left at 3 a.m. without securing the apartment. The Polícia Judiciária case file, released in 2008, showed that 5A lay empty for a month after the disappearance, then was let out to tourists before being sealed off in August 2007 for more forensic tests. A similar situation arose outside the apartment. A crowd gathered by the front door of 5A, including next to the children's bedroom window, through which an abductor may have entered or left, trampling on evidence. An officer dusted the bedroom window's exterior shutter for fingerprints without wearing gloves or other protective clothing. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?